So in the auction phase, there were almost no purchases. The only thing that happened was Blue had this rather outmoded plant, and they put this thing up. They were even debating whether or not it was worth it, but it gives them a couple more capacity, and nobody else was willing to buy it. Black considered, being in very much the same sort of position. Room to expand now, a little bit of overcapacity, but could use the extra couple points. But, you know, they thought, well, something better might come up. I go afterwards. Well, something better didn't come up. Something terribly useless came up, and nobody wanted it. And the other stuff, the nuke plant is a low-valued one. Everything's pretty garbage there. The only thing of any real interest was the one wind plant. Everything else, people got better or don't want to spend for better. So we may see a period where the cards just aren't falling now. Onto the building and purchasing phase. Okay, so we did the expansion phase, and I'm definitely beginning to see the error in my, or the change in the game in my making the buy raw materials and building phases into one. Certainly, you can get cut off after you've already bought the raw materials, and it's a slight bone if that's the case. It could be very devastating in times. But for the ease of play factor, it's definitely made things easier. I think it's slightly skewing the game towards whoever has the least cities. And I think that's all for the good. I mean, there's already bonuses aiming towards that, but it's sort of this leveling factor so that it's harder to get really rolling ahead. Okay, so what happened? Starting with yellow, they jumped and they got the biggest bonus off of this because they could calculate, hey, of course they could know that they could because of their position. So it didn't really matter. They could calculate that, hey, I'm going to be able to make it, and they made it all the way up to Philadelphia. That gives them 8 cities, just like everyone else is at more or less now, and the exact amount of fuel that they need to handle 8 cities without overspending. They've got some extra cash. They could have bought a little bit more. They bought an extra coal. They could have bought, and an extra oil for that matter. They could have bought more, but this is what they wanted to spend to see what would happen. Red shot its way into the south here, catching Knoxville, Atlanta, some of the blue spaces. Green, well, Green made it through Salt Lake and Boise. They're beginning to set themselves up, and they're not quite up with everyone else yet, but they're not that far behind anymore. And I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're exactly set for the production they want. And you know what? I grabbed the green pile of money instead of the blue pile of money, and blue didn't get to expand. Let me go back and fix that, because I looked and said, I don't know why blue has no money. So since they weren't paying attention, bad them, purple got the jump and was able to buy before them. It's not that big an effect. Blue expanded itself into Houston and Dallas, and the other option would have been into the southern territories, which might be a little cheaper right off the bat, but they couldn't get themselves up into the northeast. They wouldn't have been able to do that. They were blocked off pretty much everywhere else. So their 2 options were into Florida or westward. They're looking at the opening westward, even though it's expensive, maybe not being as expensive in the long run necessarily everywhere. And they've got a couple cheap connections running up here that they may be able to get. Red will probably get some of those too, but Oklahoma City at least they should be able to reach. Alright, so that's blues. And purple. Purple struck its way down through Memphis and Birmingham, and also grabbed Minneapolis. Just grabbing whatever was cheapest. They've got this wide open space in the west, but it's not as cheap as filling in the spaces they're in. Alright, so now I think everything's powered, although someone may not be. Purple's at 11, 12. They're fully powered. I'll look at everybody else, make sure that they are. Yellow is fully. It's black. 5, 6, 8. Yeah. Red. It's got at least 9 if they want it, and I think they will be firing it all off, even though they waste 1. Blue is at 9, and green's at 7. I thought somebody might have bought an extra territory. I know there was some thought about that. I think black maybe held on to some more money again. No, I don't know. Might make sense. Anyway, I'll collect the income and do all that bookkeeping stuff. Well, there's big money to be made, $112 by our leader. Now, money isn't how you win the game, but there's a close relationship between money and how many cities you have. How many cities you have makes you more money. How much money you have makes it easier to expand or buy the power plant needs. Our card is, I think, this one, another boned one, making the higher tech less likely to come out, and kind of leaving everyone with this, I don't want to pay for something that gives me that little. It's not that bad a card, actually, at $21 for 4 production off 2 of either. Although, this one's beginning to look very interesting, because the cost of garbage has dropped tremendously. Imagine that. Garbage is down to $2 each. There's only one person using it. So, a 1-for-1 deal on garbage may not be that bad either. The problem is, 1-for-1 sucks in and of itself. It's just bad. This 24 here starts looking better, but you know, 1-for-1 isn't the issue. It's how much power can you produce. So it's the people who have low generating plants like this who really want to expand. But so that leaves this one as perhaps the most viable of the bunch. Another option is, if nobody wants anything, that 14 goes away at the bidding phase, and a new one replaces it. So there's going to be some movement no matter what. I don't think it's going to be much. I think it's going to be one card, either the 14 or the 21. As it stands right now, there's not a lot of movement going on, though. And we see the prices. The fossils aren't doing too poorly. Coal is not as bonused as it once was. There's a lot of people using coal, or more importantly, somebody's stockpiling materials here. The nukes are looking more and more attractive. Of course, if somebody buys a nuke, it becomes less attractive immediately, and the garbage is, becoming incredible, actually. All right. Well, on to the next turn. Well, unlike the last couple turns, I think, people actually wanted to buy plants, but again, they weren't really willing to bid on them. We saw one of these two. I think this went to the purple player. Not a great plant. Nobody really wanted it, but they had a particularly poor replacement that they could take offline and get the additional for. Blue ended up with no good choices in their mind, nothing that they really wanted, and they have some expansion, they have some capacity left, so they decided to pass on the next option. Yellow also passed, but black picked up the best of the lot. Now this is an iffy situation, because had they not done this, probably no one would buy anything, and purple would get a jump, and they're already in the lead. One advantage to going first is you might get lucky on that draw. Of course, everybody has the chance to bid on the thing that you took that, maybe got you lucky, but nobody really wanted except maybe black anyway. But then we see the other players got some good options. So the red player picked up a garbage recycling, and the green player picked up a powerful nuke, and the red player discarded his nuke for that. So, you know, the nuclear production is going to be at the same. We're going to see the same number of nukes probably being taken as we did before. Although there is another one out here that's unlikely for anyone to take. Blue might feel forced to take something like that, just because they're the only one who would gain 2 production off that. $23 is a high price to pay for something that's not going to give you a lot of advantage at this point. However, they're getting close to their growth span, but if they buy it, they give a lot of other people advantages if they're going early in the turn. If they're going late in the turn and they pick that up, it's not that big a deal. And chances are they will be going fairly late in the turn. Because they may be expanding a lot of cities with the money that they didn't spend on plan. We'll see. Okay, speaking of which, we'll go to that combined weirdness that I do where I do the purchase and building at the same time. Okay, so I got done with the buying phase. Purple is capable of producing 15 power right now. They're only up to 14 cities, but that's going to be a huge amount of money. That's $129. Of course, we're seeing a marginal decrease, or the profit as it goes down with each new city you add or each new power that you add. Some players, and this may be the first time we're seeing this in any quantity, have more cities connected than they have power generation capability. Let's look at blue, for example, has a 10 power generation. They're okay. Let's look at black. I think they're an example. They have a 10 power generation, but they're at 12. Yellow's at 11, and they're okay. So I think most are all right. 9, 10, 11. Red is well within theirs as well. We had a little bit of hoarding going on with red buying some extra garbage and some coal too. And that's driven the prices up. Garbage is not too expensive. There's only 2 people using it, red and purple. And purple decided not to stockpile, figuring it'll be cheaper in the long run if they don't. However, coal has gone through the roof, up to 7. And that makes the people with these kind of dual plants have a real bonus, because now they can buy oil, which happens to be cheaper at this moment than coal for whatever reason. Alright, so now we go to the sort of bookkeeping phase where the cash comes out, and then we'll be pulling that 44 off the board and restocking these commodities. Okay, so I've done most of the bookkeeping for the end of the turn, and actually into the beginning of the next turn by doing the player order. Put the new resources out. We see the price of oil has come back down. The price of garbage has dropped to almost nothing. I may have accidentally thrown some extra resources into the pile over in the box. People overproducing accidentally or something. Just, I don't know, and I frankly don't care. It'll suck. It'll be some money they don't have, but it's not worth trying to look back and see if they made that error. It's not the kind of thing I'd be likely to make on my own playing not solitaire. Okay, but rather than make a different error that I've been making continuously, or at least made before, somebody's at 14 cities, so we have to discard this card. We had that situation before with one of with the power plant black guy. So that gets replaced immediately. And then this guy at the end of the turn, and the other one actually happened after the buying phase or something, I don't know. And ew, this one goes away immediately, it's too low. That's kind of cool. Keeps you from getting garbage. We're at the step 3. Okay, well, now it's time to look at these special rules, which I figured out last night because I thought it would happen last night, but it didn't now. Okay, it was drawn in the bureaucracy phase. It and the lowest number of power plant leave the game. There are different mechanisms depending on when this card is drawn, all to present sort of the same general effect. We now have 6 power plants, all in the actual market. There's no futures market anymore. Everything's here. Cities go up to 3 houses, possible. The 3rd house costs 20 to build in there. And in the bureaucracy phase from now on, the lowest technology power plant is discarded each turn. Now the game is almost done, which is to say, the game will end when somebody gets 17 cities. And I think purple is very close to being able to not only get there, but power them. So I would assume that things are going to end pretty soon. I would assume that purple's going to probably win, because they do have a definite jump on everyone else right now. Of course, they're only powering 15, so to power and win with 17, they're going to have to buy another big power plant. And we'll see how much money they have. But those don't look terribly expensive when you're pulling in $130 a turn. So I'm guessing that they will be able to exceed what anyone else will be able to build in cities and power them all within this next turn. And they, of course, are going to be going first, though. Slight disadvantage, giving everyone else a chance to catch up. I'm going to load this one up. The next one's probably going to be pretty damn short, but you know, maybe the wrap up, and then I'll do a review separately. I think some of you get particular pleasure out of watching these just to see what errors I make and catch me on them. I hope so, because I can't imagine what other pleasure there is. Alright, coming up to you.